Hey, what's going on everyone? Vasco here and welcome back to the channel. And yesterday there were big news from Brazil surrounding Lewis Hamilton's rear wing in qualifying. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm actually talking about the DRS flap in Lewis Hamilton's car. So after the qualifying session where Lewis Hamilton actually scored a pretty brilliant pole position, and yes, I'm calling it pole position even though it's a sprint race weekend. But almost immediately after qualifying, Mercedes were actually summoned to the stewards regarding an issue with Hamilton's DRS. So if you don't know, the DRS is a drag reduction system that's in every Formula 1 car, and it's the thing that happens when the rear wing opens to facilitate overtaking, or in the case of qualifying, increase the car's top speed during a straight. And what the FIA said was that the rear wing was actually opening more than it should. So now let's look at an image of a Formula 1 rear wing in order for me to explain to you better. Okay, so now looking here at my screen, you actually have what is a Redbull rear wing. So this is a Redbull from Sergio Perez's car and is actually a low downforce spec of Formula 1 rear wing. But with this picture, we can really show you what the problem is and why Hamilton is in the face of being disqualified from qualifying. Okay, so now if you look at this rear wing very carefully, you can see that there's a gap right here. And this gap is actually what's going to move and what's going to open in order for the DRS system to actuate. So you can see that right here above this gap, there's a mechanical part right here, this part right here. You cannot see it very well, but it's here. It does something like this. And this is the part that actually engages the DRS mechanism. So by this part being pulled inwards, the wing actually goes upwards. So this is something that engages the DRS system, and there are a few rules regarding this. But the one that's being so problematic right now is actually the rule of the maximum size that the DRS opening can take. So if you look at the DRS opening right now during this picture, it's about 10 to 15 millimeters, and this is the size that the DRS opening must be when it's closed. So if you look at this cap right here, it's about 10 to 15 millimeters as it should be. But the rule that's been broken supposedly is not that. That's no problem. Mercedes was actually abiding by this rule, and if they weren't, they wouldn't pass any sort of scrutineering. The rule that they weren't abiding for, allegedly, is that the max opening of the DRS, so you can imagine that once the wing goes open, it does a movement like this. So it goes from being in this position to being kind of in this position, and the maximum distance between these two openings needs to be 85 millimeters. And the way that the FIA measures this is by passing an 85 millimeter cylinder by this opening once the DRS is open. And you can actually see some footage of that happening right on your screen right now, because the Mercedes car was actually being scrutinized again and again and again in order to justify the penalty and to decide whether it's going to be given or not. And the issue that's being brought up by the FIA is that Hamilton's wing is actually opening more than 85 millimeters. So you can imagine that it's opening right until some sort of here. And even if it's 86 millimeters, this is a big problem. But why is that so? Okay, so if you think about the Formula 1 car, the rear wing is one of the parts that produces the most drag in any straight. So going in a straight line, the car actually produces a lot of drag. That rear wing acts almost as a wall against the air and generates a lot of drag. But if you open the DRS, you actually generate a lot less drag. That's why it's called the drag reduction system, because you turn that wall into something that's open and the air is free to pass by the middle. But what actually happens when you open the DRS more than you are supposed to is that you are having an unfair advantage over your competitors, because you are removing more drag from your car. And this, when combined with Hamilton's new engine, actually created a machine that was unbeatable on the straights, if this verifies to be true. And honestly, I think that once the FIA starts investigating these kind of technical penalties, I think it's clear-cut that Hamilton is going to be disqualified, because in engineering and in the technical regulations, something either is legal or isn't legal. So if Hamilton's wing actually opens 86 millimeters, then it's not legal anymore. This is something that we are going to see solved over the next couple of hours, but in my opinion, Hamilton's car should be disqualified if the wing opens more than 85 millimeters. But this is also a very, very bad way to end the championship, and a very bad way to decide a title, because this year's title has been so good and the fight has been so consistently brilliant that it's really a shame for us to end up in a scenario like this, where we can see the title decided by a stupid penalty because a rear wing flap opened 1 millimeter more than it should. Because if Lewis Hamilton actually starts a sprint race from last, I only think that it can go up to 7th or 8th, and that is if he doesn't get caught in the chaos of the midfield. But then on Sunday, he will have another 5 places grid penalty because of that engine penalty. But another thing that I actually wanted to talk about was the behavior of Max Verstappen through this whole situation, because I also didn't like it a lot. Because you can see in a video right on your screen right now that immediately after qualifying, once they were in that top 3 formation right after qualifying, you can see a video of Verstappen touching actually Mercedes' rear wings in order to see if the problem was really there and if the flap was opening more than it should. And this is a big issue because once the cars are in parc fermé, you cannot touch your rival's car. You cannot even touch your car after you get away from it. So this is a big problem, and I don't think that Max should have been doing this, and he's actually being summoned to the stewards regarding this issue. So expect some penalties to be issued over the next couple of hours. But I just want to say that Lewis Hamilton's penalty is going to be technical. So something either is legal or is not legal. And if it's legal, he keeps the pole position. If it's not legal, he's disqualified. But Max's penalty is actually in the sporting regulations and not in the technical regulations. So what does this mean? It means that Max is probably going to get a reprimand and maybe a few points on his license for doing this, but it's not going to give him any kind of racing penalty, or if it does, it's going to be a 5-place grid penalty at the worst. So there's no scenario in which Max and Lewis actually start from the back of the grid. So this is ending a really big advantage to Max Verstappen in the championship, because with this news, and if Lewis is confirmed to be disqualified from the qualifying session, we can probably guarantee that Max Verstappen and Red Bull will win this title, because it will be Valtteri Bottas against the 2 Red Bulls in P1 and P3, and they will probably win the sprint race 1 and 2. And then with Hamilton, even if Hamilton improves to P7 or P8 during the sprint race, which actually warrants him no points, on Sunday he will have the engine penalty that's going to put him 5 places back, so he probably has no chance of winning the Brazil race or even reaching the podium. So this is a very shameful way to end a championship fight, and it's a very shameful way to see a title decided. I really wanted this to go down to the wire in Abu Dhabi without any further controversy after Silverstone and Monza, but unfortunately it seems that this is the way it's going, and that this is going to be decided by a penalty. So this has been it for this video, and let me know in the comments down below if you think that Lewis Hamilton should have been penalized by this matter. But please be civil and try to keep your technical mind first and then your fan mind second, because we really need to be discussing this objectively and not as a fan of each driver. So this has been it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and that now you understand better why the rules are written the way that they are, why Hamilton is probably going to be penalized. So this has been it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, why not check this video right here? I think you guys will enjoy it. So this has been it for this video. I really hope you guys will enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.